Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am David Alanatko, and I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation, Monitoring in ConnectWise RMM. I'll be your moderator for today, so if you have any questions during today's presentation, feel free to ask them in the chat or in the questions pod during the presentation, and we'll work to answer those at the end of today's presentation. I just want to remind everyone that this webinar is recorded. So if anyone has to step out or they need to catch the webinar later for any of their colleagues, this will be up on our video library once this webinar is complete. So without further ado, here is the best colleague of the trainers, DVB.
Aw, you're gonna make me blush. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Niko, for introducing me. Hello, everyone. My name is Devin Barrett, also known as DBB, and I'm also one of the software training consultants here at ConnectWise. And as Niko so dutifully said, today we're going to be talking all about the monitoring that we have available for you in CW RMM. We're going to give you just a quick introduction to what we have and what capabilities we have within the product so that you can get a little bit more comfortable with it. Or if you haven't tried it out yet, give you a reason to say, hey, maybe I should check this out. This seems pretty cool. So on today's agenda, we are going to be talking about Intellimon. I'll dive into that in just one second. And then we're going to talk about custom monitors. Now, this does seem like a pretty bare bones agenda, but that's because we are going to be diving pretty robustly into each one of these topics. So let's start it off with Intellimon monitoring. First off, what the heck is Intellimon, right? Well, Intellimon is ConnectWise RMM's out-of-box monitoring experience. If you're currently using Automate, the best example I could give to you of this would be our Ignite setup. It's a suite of monitors that we have built in-house between our support team and our ConnectWise development team to get you that generalized solution for all of your monitoring needs. Give you that baseline that's going to make things a little bit easier for you so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you onboard a new client. It's going to notify you of those common issues, and then you get to decide how you're going to act with that. Whether that's going to be building out automation to resolve the issue, or if you are one of our advanced users, you have our NOC team set up to help you out and assist with those kinds of things. And it's also just continuously evolving. As I said, there's 3 different versions that we currently have of CW RMM. We have core, we have standard, and we have our advanced setup. Each one of those is going to have a separate suite of monitors, and our NOC team, our help desk team, and our development team are constantly interacting to build more monitors and evolve that process for you. I can't give you an exact number because that number might just change in the middle of this presentation. It's going to evolve. They might say, hey, every single user needs this, so we're going to put it on all 3 versions, or this is only going to be for the advanced users because it's a separate tool that we're using just for those products. So let me go ahead and open up CW RMM now so I can give you guys a live demonstration of that. Here we are. Just go ahead and make this full screen. So let me just start off with this walkthrough from the beginning because I don't know where I got cut off there. So on this screen in the navigation pane, I'm going to go under alert management here and go over to my Intellimon alerts, and that's going to bring me to this screen here. Now, right here, you're going to see a list of all the available monitors that I have within Intellimon. As you can see, we have an incredibly robust list here. This is because I am one of the advanced users. So currently I have 1,164 monitors that are currently set up by default within my Intellimon system. Now, again, if you're a core or standard user, that number might be a little bit different, but all in all, these are all, you can go here and take a look at every single one of the monitors that we have available for you. I can highlight one of the monitors here and I'll just get a quick piece of information. But if I really want to dive into it, I can go ahead.
DVB, hold 1 second. We lost audio
That's
again
going to
here.
be going on. Hello?
You cut out there for a few sentences there.
Okay. So let's see here, just in case. Here's that list of all the monitors that we have available. Here's a brief description of any monitor that I currently have highlighted. And it's also going to give me the detailed description that I can go ahead and click into here for and get more information, including the hardware or the family of the monitor that we have and the severity that's been set by the system. Also from here, I can add any automation I want. So if I have a script that's going to effectively resolve this issue, I can go ahead and add automation to this piece. If not, then it's just going to generate a ticket for me and move that ticket over into my ticketing system. If this issue becomes resolved, then it's going to automatically close out that ticket as well. Another great feature that I wanted to point out while I am here is our preview alerts. As I said, this is a continuously evolving piece of a solution for us. We're constantly adding new monitors, testing out different things just to get a better idea. All partners who have the ability to access that monitor, you can go ahead and click here on our preview alerts. Hey, these two are brand new as of today. They weren't here a little bit earlier. But if I wanted to bring any of these preview alerts and automatically deploy those out to my endpoints, I could go ahead and click on it, and you'll see here I have the disabled option. Once I click enabled, that's now going to move that as to a standard monitor that's going to be applied to all the machines that it would be applicable to. And I could add my own custom automation to this, but in general, I'm going to have that solution available to me. And as always, I have a great search bar here. So if there's any particular monitor I want to take a look for, I can go ahead and take a look at that. Now, for those of you who have used Automate in the past, I'm sure you remember how difficult it could be to get set up with Ignite. Unfortunately, this is also very, very complicated. You install the agent and you're done. That's right, that's it. There's no other pieces that you have to tie to this. As soon as the agent gets deployed out to your system, it's going to automatically detect the role, software, and function of that particular machine. And then it's going to apply the suite of monitors that's based off that discovery. So for example, if you have an HP Exchange server because you're old school and you like having an Exchange server on premise and you don't want to have one online, not a problem. We're going to detect the role of that Exchange server as well as the hard drive or the hardware being HP hardware. And we're going to have that suite of monitor that's associated with both of those pieces applied to this machine and automatically generating tickets as soon as you onboard this device. It's going to generate those tickets, move it over to the ticketing system, and then close those tickets whenever those tickets are resolved, whether that be by your team or any automation that you've put into the background of this. And as I said, we can apply that automation, or if you are an advanced member, you can grab assistance from our CW help desk if you've configured and set it up to where they have access to these machines remotely so that you don't even have to worry about it. Your team can go ahead and have that lunch that you had planned out for a while. Now, that's a lot of monitors, and I do believe they're going to address a lot of common issues that people are going to have. However, I know a lot of you are very experienced technicians. You know exactly what's going on in your system. You know exactly what's going on within your environment. You don't need us to tell you every single thing. You know what's important to your team and what's not important to your team. You can absolutely just remove these alerts when you don't care about them. And you can do that by applying suspension rules to any of these endpoints or for any of these monitors. So here we are. To set up that alert suppression, I'm going to go ahead and click the checkbox for this particular monitor because I no longer want to see it anymore. Then I'll click on suspension rule. That's going to bring me to this screen where I can put a name to this particular suspension rule, give it a brief description, and then I can fill out all this additional information here. I've applied this to one particular site that we have. It's only going to be for an hour because, hey, we're going to be hot swapping out hard drives on this particular servers on this site. I don't need to get a bunch of alerts generated for that. So I'm going to go ahead and disable this alert for my team so we don't have to deal with it anymore. And it's just that simple. When I have that set up, I'll go ahead and click the save button right here. All the alerts are going to be suppressed for that particular hour or that particular day or whatever recurring schedule you want to set this up for and whatever sites you want to have that set up for as well. We can make this incredibly granular to set up exactly what you need to ensure that you're not getting any false positives when you know your team is providing maintenance or it's just a machine you're not concerned about. We all have that one client who has a machine that's been sitting there for 15 years and they refuse to deprecate it. It's going to make a lot of noise in your network. You don't need to deal with it. They already have a signature saying, hey, you're not managing this machine. I just want to be able to have access to it and you guys to have access if we do need to troubleshoot it. No problem, let's go ahead and suspend all the alerts for that particular machine. I can do that all from here. Diving in a little bit more into those preview alerts in case you guys didn't see that beforehand. I can go ahead and enable it here. And that's going to bring up that automation piece, so I can go ahead and add automation if this is a monitor I feel is really worthwhile. And I can also just communicate with the ConnectWise team and say, hey, this alert is making a lot of false positives. That way we can start granularly changing that monitor before we bring it up publicly and make it a full-time part of Intellimon. So let's talk a little bit now about custom monitors. That's names right there on the tin. These are monitors that are going to be built out by your team. They can track critical items for you, and you can build out any automation to resolve the issues before they become major problems. Let's say you are running a bunch of dentist offices and they have a particular line of software that they need to have up and online all the time. I'm not going to be able to make one of those monitors for the CW team. This is going to be something that your team is going to have to build, but you can easily build that out within the CW RMM solution. And it can just create those solutions for niche pieces of software or things that your team want to troubleshoot and deal with on a daily basis. All of these run in almost real time directly on the endpoint of itself. If you are familiar with Automate and the difference between our internal and remote monitors, these are going to run exclusively as remote monitors. So we're going to get immediate feedback onto any of the issues that we currently have within that environment. And just a quick fun fact, all of the Intellimon monitors were built on that exact same engine. So if you're happy with what you're seeing with Intellimon, you're liking the responsiveness of whenever there's an issue on those machines, you're getting an alert immediately and it's closing it out as soon as the issue is resolved. It's the exact same system that we have for there. So let me go ahead and bring up that window again so I can show you guys where we can build out those custom monitors. But first, actually, excuse me, let me go ahead and bring up this business case so you can see what monitor we're building out. So let's say your team is currently using Control to get access to your client systems, and you've also provided access to your clients to their own devices through Control. Once you've decided to do that, you've seen too many scams come up in the past, you want to just go ahead and disable RDP access to any of those client devices. So you don't have to worry about some scanner calling in saying that they're the password manager for the state. They need to check to make sure that their password's complex enough, so if they can just provide them RDP access to the machine. Not a problem, you've already disabled RDP. They should only be having access through your Control setup. Let's go ahead and make a monitor that's going to check to ensure that RDP is disabled for all of these machines, so we don't have to worry about that again. So here we are. Now back in here, I'm going to go over to the navigation pane, and under Alert Management, I'm going to go ahead and click on Monitors. This is going to give me a list of all the monitors that I have currently set up in my system. And hey, I've already built that RDP enabled monitor. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here we are. I can give it a quick name. I can enable or disable this monitor once I know that it's working the way I expect it to work. I can give it a brief description of what's going on, tie it to a family of monitors and the setup of there. And the other piece is once I select the type of monitor, I have the ability to bring the conditions and issues up here. So actually, let me go back. I'll add a brand new monitor up here. Redux. You'll see here, I have a litany of different monitor types that I can choose from, whether that be application, disk. I could take a look for event logs. Hey, if someone's remoting into the system, it's going to create an event ID. I can go ahead and check for that ID and build out a quick alert for that. If there's a file system that I can check for that, Hyper-V, performance counters, port access, I can check to see if there's any activity on 3386. Anything of that nature I have the ability to do. But for this example, because I want to make sure that that registry key continuously stays disabled, I'll go ahead and build that out this way. Go back to that monitor that I have. So here you see I have that condition built out for whenever this registry key and the value of it contains a 1, we're going to run an automated task on that, and I'm going to stop that remote access. I've already built out a script for this. It's going to automatically disconnect, stop the service of it, shut down any RDP sessions that are currently available, and then reset that key. So I don't have to worry about that. I'll still leave that tick. Now, I could be debating with my internal team, hey, I think we should still leave that ticket open. I want you guys to reach out to the client and be like, hey, why did you open RDP? Let's find out what happened. But they're kind of pushing back because it happens too often, or they're just a little bit strapped for time because we're having a higher ticket volume than usual. Okay, no problem. I'll go ahead and set this ticket to automatically resolve, and then I'll set it. If that key contains a 0, that means that RDP is no longer enabled on this device. I don't have to worry about it anymore. We can go ahead and call it a job well done. And then I could go ahead and set up all the resources that I want. For example, this particular site, my EduAutomate team, unfortunately, it's an elderly care facility. They tend to get scammed a lot. I don't want them opening RDP, so that's why I built this monitor in the first place. So I'm going to highlight for that particular resource site, make sure that they're good to go. Then once I have all that configured, I can go ahead and hit save here. I can build out a dynamic group, so this is going to be happening for all of my workstations. I can go ahead and also have this apply to all eligible endpoints if I really wanted to. So now it's just going to be deployed onto every single endpoint that I have. That might be a problem. There might be some devices where we legit need to have RDP access. So that's not an option I'm willing to take for this particular monitor, but I have all that function and availability here. Go ahead and save that. Now it's a great first run for a monitor. Pull this back out. I think it works really well, but sometimes you really want to get fancy with the cheese whiz, right? You know, you don't want any false positives. You want to make a really niche monitor that's going to be able to hit every single issue that you have and address all the problems that could be associated with this particular device. Well, that is where our complex monitors are going to come in. If you think of all the other different monitor types that I showed you in that type section, those are all simple monitors. Well, this is a way to tie multiple simple monitors together into one larger monitor to get really niche with how we're going to be able to look at and investigate an issue. It uses and or statements to tie these monitors together in either inner or outer blocks. And it just gives you a greater level of fine tuning and granularity whenever you're trying to build out a monitor. So let's take a look at this monitor here. I'll zoom in just 1 second, but this is when I select the complex type. I can now start building out any of the different monitors that I want to have in this environment. So you'll see here, I've built an inner block and I'm checking for 2 different registry keys here. Now this one is just for any device. This is one that might be set if that device is part of a GPO. I want to make sure if any of those situations happen, it's going to automatically check for that piece. I also have, and I built an and statement here of a PowerShell script that I built. It's another type of monitor that we have available to us. I built out a script. This is obviously a fake one here, but I'm going to check to see if RDP is enabled on this particular device, and this script is running every 5 minutes. I could change this to a bash script if I wanted to, if you're more comfortable with bash. That's just this drop down right here. I could go ahead and modify it. I could change the time frame for how quickly this monitor is going to be running. I could also flip this as an or statement. Those previous 2 are tied together. One or the other has to work. That's an inner block for this. An outer block is something that's going to be completely separate. So one of those 2 registry keys has to be set. This PowerShell script has to say that RDP is enabled. That's going to generate a ticket for me. I want to make sure that that's clear for everybody. So if there's any questions, please go ahead and put that into the chat. I want to make sure that I get that really straightened out for you guys because I know that's a bit complicated. It's complex. Are there any questions on this particular piece, Natko?
So we had one here. We've had a few other questions, but there was one that I thought we could have it for the Q&A at the end.
Okay.
For one in particular, since you are talking about complex monitors now, is do the complex monitors replicate or replace the functionality of automate groups and searches?
That wouldn't be the complex monitor in and of itself. So me and my colleagues have had a couple debates on this. The clearest example I could give you for a complex monitor, or the closest parity I would have would be an internal monitor, in my personal opinion, because I can get really granular with the usage of a complex monitor. I can say, if one of these registry keys is set, if this PowerShell script happens, or if this event log is generated, go ahead and make a ticket for me. And I can do and or ors with all of those. So if one of these two registry keys are enabled, great. But this PowerShell script says, hey, RDP has not been enabled. I don't know why that particular key has been reset, but there's no RDP sessions available. No problem. This isn't going to generate an alert then. What would be a better parity for the searches and the groups that they were talking about would be the dynamic groups that we have within CW RMM. You have the ability to either create static or dynamic groups within the system. And then they have a basic search that's being built out to be a little bit more robust, to be more on par with the automate system, but we haven't reached that level of parity just yet. But I could make something like, hey, I want all of my Dell desktops to be in this one dynamic group. I can then apply the search, or excuse me, the resources that you saw. Let me bring this back up. So under resources, you'll see here, so I have a couple groups set up. So I have one for just all my Linux servers. If I wanted this monitor to be applied to all my Linux servers, obviously that wouldn't make sense because I'm looking for registry keys, but I digress. I could go ahead and hit this checkbox. And then I'm gonna have access to all my Linux servers that are available here. And anytime a new Linux server gets put into the system, it's gonna be applied to this group and this monitor is automatically gonna be tied to it. Does that help clear that up a bit? If there's any additional questions on that, again, during the Q&A, I'd be more than happy to go ahead and go back and we can dive into that a little bit deeper if there's any additional questions.
Yes, that cleared it up.
Perfect. All right. Just to dive into this a little bit more and add a little bit more of a finer point to it, adding that complexity ensures you're going to get alerts for critical issues without making a bunch of noise in your network. Nothing's worse than you getting 500 tickets for something that is critical to your business or your client's business, but because you're getting so many alerts for it and they happen so often, it's become white noise in the background and your team's not looking at it anymore. These complex monitors, I can get really fine-tuned and go as far as I want with that so I can make sure that we are getting this hit every single time. A good example, going back to that RDP, if it's a matter of I'm concerned about scammers, I could go ahead and add some additional complexity to this monitor as an or statement for that outer block of, hey, if any desk is installed on this device, go ahead and generate the ticket for that. Or I can also just check on port 3389. Hey, we've switched we've switched the RDP port on the system to make sure that this port wasn't open and there wasn't anything actively listening. If it is listening for some reason, we need to know about it and we need to get that addressed. Just a couple additional options, and I tied these together as an inner block because I want to know if it's going to be either UDP or TCP. I want to have that ability to check both of them. All right, and just a couple key takeaways for you guys to make sure if I was successful in this presentation, then you should understand that Intellimon is a suite of monitors built by ConnectWise to deliver a great out-of-box experience for you. It's going to be immediately deployed once that agent has been installed on the endpoint. Automation can help can be added to any of these to resolve any issues. So if you have a script that's going to troubleshoot and address any of the problems, you can go ahead and apply that to any of the Intellimon or the custom monitors that we have built out. And custom monitors can be built and tailored to your needs so you can have everything that you need to address something that's particular to your clients and your business. And complex monitors allow you to build much more robust monitors. You can get really niche with what you need to check, and you can tie a bunch of those custom simple monitors together into one complex monitor. Alrighty, now that's all I have for the presentation. Thank you all so very much, and if you have any questions, I am here for you.
Oh, we have questions, DBB. We have lots of them.
Fantastic. I love
This has been
questions.
a very, very great crowd today.
Oh, I'm excited.
So The first question is, how do I know what monitors are active or inactive?
Okay, so if you go over here, there's a couple pieces to this. Now, again, as I said before, all the IntelliMon monitors, they're going to be applied to every device that is applicable to them. So you'll see here, I don't have any Active Directory machines, but if I did have any Active Directory machines, this monitor is automatically going to be deployed out to them. Go back here. Uh, if I have AVG installed on the machine, it's automatically going to be deployed out to it. Any of these available monitors, if they are applicable to that particular device, they're going to automatically be updated for them. So that's when it comes to IntelliMon alerts. Now, if we want to get back to our custom monitoring, we're going to be able to see that you'll see this monitor, it's disabled. It's not going to be applied to any device. But if I want to see what devices it's actually going to be set up for, I can go down here. You'll see again, I have this for a particular site. So any machine that's going to be under my Edu Automate group, so in other words, all of these particular resources, they are going to get this monitor applied to them. So that's the easiest way to find out what's going to be going on to each one of those devices. Alrighty, and my next question.
Okay. Is there a resource that shows the registry keys or events to look for when creating these custom monitors?
So we do have our documentation. I'm sorry, could you repeat that question? I want to make sure I have that correctly.
Sure. Is there a resource that shows the registry keys or events to look for when creating these custom monitors? I'm thinking is, do we have some kind of reference that shows maybe what registry keys are out there or what event IDs to look for when they're creating custom monitor solutions?
So any ID, or so for example, the event log, any event log that's currently out onto those devices, I don't have the availability of event logs, I believe, currently in CW RMM. I'm sure that's coming. Let me just check to make sure. Hold on 1 second, please. Yeah, they currently, unfortunately, don't keep registry information or the event logs like Automate does within the system, or at least I don't know where there is a place within your own network to set that up. But I know, again, our goal is to get feature parity with Automate, so I'm sure they're going to have the ability to pull that information soon. You could always remote into the machine using control, using Backstage to get access to that information that way. I know you have the ability to view the entire registry through Backstage, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Natko? I know you're better with Backstage than I am.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I was reading through our questions here.
Oh, yeah, my bad. So Backstage, you have access to the entire registry through there, correct?
Yeah, you should be able to do it through the command line, and you can bring up the regedit window through that using
Okay,
control.
gotcha. So that's one way you could have access to all that information currently within the CW RMM platform. When it comes to building the monitor of itself, you can look at that through our documentation. We have that over at docs.connectwise.com. Let me go ahead and bring that up. I believe we have ported all the CW RMM docs over here already. There we go. All right, so here is some of our custom monitors documentation. You'll see all the different types and compatibilities that we have, the availability for all the particular types. I know we're going to be going and probably, or we are going to be expanding out into more of these. But let me go down to the registry monitor. Here we go. We have a separate article for that. And you'll see here, we have all the different pieces for that when it comes to what we're expecting for values and information for that registry type of monitor. And then we have some screenshots to make it a little bit easier for you to see. Alrighty.
Okay, next one.
Mhm.
Are there any plans to add custom fields to alerts? Would love to be able to set the ConnectWise managed service type subtype item from the alert?
I don't know if they're planning on putting that particular piece. I know they are putting in the custom fields within CW RMM. I know that's one of the initiatives that they're currently undertaking. I don't know how, I don't have any visibility into when that's going to be just yet, but I know that is something that they are actively working on. If you want to send us an email to education@connectwise.com, that's actually a really good idea, and I would like to see something along those lines as well. So if anything, I can at least advocate for you in the next PM meeting that I have, because I'm sure they're not tired of me just yet.
Okay, I think this one might go a little off topic, but it's a good question to ask nonetheless, is are the PowerShell scripts signed? Do they run natively in the C# code, or do you drop a .ps1 or PowerShell file on the server and execute it that way?
My understanding is that it's using the native PS infrastructure that you currently have within the device. I don't know off the top of my head for that particular piece of architecture. But for the last time I checked, I didn't see, when I was running PowerShell script on through CW RMM last time, I didn't see it drop a PS1 file onto the endpoint. So my assumption is that it's native. That is something I would have to confirm to be 100% on.
Okay, next one is, can you have monitor dependencies? For example, don't monitor the database if the database connection fails.
So there's two ways you could do that. The first one, let me bring up the screen. You could do that through the complex monitoring setup, I believe. Let me bring this back up. So the two ways I could think off the top of my head to do something like that. The first one would be going for that complex monitor again. So I'll go to that complex type. And then my first option there would be going for that database service here. That reminds me, I never deleted that MacGuffin service. So let's say you're just using a standard SQL server, and then I'm going to check to see if that is stopped. Actually, no, I don't think that would work because it would just be okay. That plan, now that I'm thinking about it, wouldn't work. Your best bet would probably be to build a script monitor so you can use an if-then statement and running that through PowerShell. So check to make sure that the SQL service or the database service is still running first, and then check the database and whatever query you want to run against that through PowerShell would probably be the easiest way to do that. And if this is a Linux device, then you could build that again through a bash script instead. So you have both of those options. That would be how I would probably do that off the top of my head.
Okay. Next one is there a maximum number of monitors you can have? Will it hurt the server's performance? I myself haven't seen any maximum number as far as what you're limited to on the server. Have you heard anything about that, DBB?
In all of their benchmark testing, they haven't been able to hit something that's actually had performance issues. You might run into an issue. I haven't tried to run multiple very in-depth PowerShell scripts like every minute. That might cause a problem, but that's going to cause a problem because PowerShell can only do so much at once. So that's what's going to be killing your performance there. The actual CW RMM agent would not be causing the issue and wouldn't be spiking. You would see that through the Microsoft OS, if I remember correctly. Because I think that's one of the sub processes there, if I remember off the top of my head. but that's what you would see spiking there because it's actually making calls to PowerShell every single time. But for the agent of itself, I haven't seen. I know they've tried to put thousands upon thousands. I know there's at least 5 machines out there that have over 2,000 monitors from the custom as well as the IntelliMon because I just wanted to see just benchmarking that they haven't had any trouble with.
Okay. Next one is, can you put variables in remote monitors like automate?
You can't do that just yet. For registry keys, you can just check the baseline of the registry. So in this example, family. So if you go back to the registry key here, I could go to a broader registry key and then it's just going to automatically assume based off of that information. And I could just put a star here for the value. But beyond that, I don't think we have any variables that we can set past that piece. And I haven't tested it enough to make sure that it's 100% across all of them.
All right. Next one is, currently the only way we know that there is a problem from monitoring in CW RMM is a ticket. Is there a way to see current issues or alerts other than scanning through tickets? Other RMMs have like a dashboard that show alerts by site or by machine. BrightGauge doesn't seem to have this.
BrightGauge doesn't have it yet. I know that is something that they are working to actively build for you. They don't have the same alert structure that they would have yet within CWRMM, but that is something that I know they are looking into building.
Do we have any reliable sites from which we can get scripts, as I am not good at scripting, just in case I don't have time to create one?
MSP Geek is always a good option. Wait, I'm in a webinar. I'm not allowed to talk about it. Wait, no, whatever. Yeah, MSP Geek is always a great option. It is a very robust forum for people who are building out PowerShell scripts for Automate and now CWRMM and a litany of other tools out there. Any problem that I've found or anything that's actively going on, usually I will go up onto MSP Geek and there's going to be a robust conversation on the Slack channel, and they've already built out a couple PowerShell scripts to troubleshoot the issue. And they're building out more and they're always fine tuning it. So that's usually where I go. I trust the community there, so that's usually my first reaction.
Okay, the next one asks, we have a number of internal IT clients where we could release this. Could it run beside an Automate agent, or would it be one or the other only?
You can run both of
With
them on the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, with my experience and with DBB's experience, you can run both the Automate agent and the CW RMM client on the endpoint at the same time. The only way they could conflict with each other as far as monitoring is if they both pick up on the same issue, then you're going to be getting the same type or the same kind of ticket from both systems at the same time. The only other conflict that I could see would be with patching. If you're having one system handle your patching and then you start to have the RMM platform start to handle patching as well, then both of them can conflict with each other. For example, if you have a patch approved on one site or on one side, but a patch not approved on the other side, one may go ahead and install. And on the flip side of that, if you have Automate set to maybe remove that patch, then you could have the two systems fighting back and forth, installing and removing that patch constantly on that agent, which would be a horrible time.
Yeah,
So you do have to be careful in regards to patching on the systems. If you're only doing patching on Automate, however, and you're just monitoring with the CWRMM platform, you can go ahead and have those two run in tandem and they should be fine together.
couldn't have said it better myself.
This one is, how do you see the status of the monitor on a single machine?
Let me see here. If I remember correctly, I can go to any one of my devices, click onto that. It's under automation. We don't have it per machine just yet in this. I know that's something that they were working on to give you more visibility from that perspective. I don't think it's currently in the public release of it yet. So that is something that they're actively building. If you have any automation tied to it, it will show up here underneath your history.
Okay,
But I
next
can't see
one
it per device just yet. Well, actually, yeah, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
is, can you run an EXE process like Automate? We build our own custom EXEs and Automate automatically downloads the EXE and runs them.
Let me check really quick. Now, I'm sorry, could you repeat that second part again for me?
We build our own custom EXEs and Automate automatically downloads the EXE and runs them.
So you couldn't do that from a monitor, but you could build an automation script for that. Let me check here. So here I am in the system. I'm going to go under tasks. Now this is more towards the scripting piece of it. But I can go ahead and create a script through our script editor. And then from here, I can build that logic out. It is fighting me a little bit on it now. There we go. I wasn't prepared for that particular question, just so I apologize for that. But from here, I believe you would have the ability to install an application. Yep, create an application. There we go. So you could go ahead and set that package, figure out the download location, whether that be local, what have you. Grab that, and then from that same script, you'd be able to run the application as well. So you could do that. I haven't tested that out in CW RMM myself, but yes, we do have that functionality. So if you have an application that you currently have built, you could deploy it out and run that executable from CW RMM in the script.
Okay. Next one is, are Automate and Telemon related? Do they connect, or should we use one product or another?
So you can use both products. You can absolutely use both products. Intellimon is part of CW RMM. The out-of-box experience for Automate would be Ignite. So if you look at it from the perspective of like all three of the RMM products that we have, so I am tying Continuum up with that. I believe that's still, or Command, that's the name of it. I'm sorry. I'm not as comfortable with Command as some of the other products. I apologize. But the philosophy behind the three products. So Automate was a DIY product. It was absolutely do it yourself. Command was a do it for you product. It was the goal being, hey, we have the NOC services for you. You just deploy out the agent and print the money and you're happy and we're happy and everybody's happy. Automate was always, we're going to give you the tools and the equipment to build your own RMM dream, and whatever you need from it, you can absolutely do that. That's how it was sold to me, so that's how I'm going to pitch it to you guys. CW RMM is kind of the bridge between those two worlds. You have access to our NOC services, our help desk services, our security services, but you can also build out anything that you want, but you don't have to. There's going to be those clients that you don't need access to some of these pieces for. I'm not going to have to build custom scripts for the mom and pop pizza shop that I picked up. And I don't want to have my SOC team or my security MSP having to deal with some of the questions that might be coming from them. That's why you might want to use our help desk or our doc services so you can keep and leverage those higher end internal resources for larger projects that you're going to be doing. So it's kind of a middle ground and a bridge between the two. At some point in the future, it will be as robust as Automate is, but we're not in the future just yet. So you can absolutely run both. Like Nako was saying, I would not, do patching from both systems because that's going to make your life exceedingly difficult. Or if you want to break it down per site, you can do that, but you're going to run into problems with your own team on that. From my own personal experience on a help desk, you're going to tell them, hey, patching should be done through Automate for this particular site, and this particular site needs to do CW RMM. Someone's going to mess that up and you're going to have a bad day when they do. But you could run both of them in tandem. You could do monitoring and setup for that. For now, you might want to just have your small clients on CW RMM as we're building out their functionality for it. And then some of the more advanced niche uses or people who don't want to have cloud software because CW RMM is only available through the cloud. If you have a client that says, hey, I need something that's on-prem and I need you guys to keep everything in-house for those contracts, you have Automate for that. So you can use both tools that way. I hope that answers the question without going too far into the weeds.
Okay. Yes, that did help. So next one is adding back to the earlier question about running EXEs like Automate does. Um, says our customers don't allow PowerShell, which is why we only monitor using EXEs or remote monitors.
Okay. So I don't believe the scripting engine in the background uses PowerShell to download those files. But again, going from here, you could absolutely do a network share. You could set up however you want to get that application out to those endpoints and you can download it. And then again, through that script, you could go ahead and run against that exe that you have, check whatever variable that is going to be checked against them, whatever information that you need, and have just the basic check of, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Sorry, I'm a little fried at the moment. I'm trying to think of a good business case for that without using PowerShell, which my brain is just not working. So let's say you're deploying out Dell check or the Dell monitoring software for your Dell servers, or you've built out an application for that. And whenever a hard drive fails, it returns back a 1. So you have your script, it's going to automatically deploy out the software or check to see if that application is currently installed. You're going to have it run against that application because we have that functionality as well. And if it returns back that 1, you can generate a ticket based off that information. So you can have that all built out in a script. I just don't have that functionality to deploy out the software that you want from a monitor. And Automate can't do that either. You would still have to script that piece out if I remember correctly. Where if that particular application, you'd have to deploy the script, the executable out by a script, and then check that information and then generate a ticket or an alert based off that information.
Okay, the next one is, can you build a custom plugin monitor like Automate?
I'm trying to follow what they're saying there. So are you just to clarify, are you talking about building your own custom plugin that has a suite of monitors tied to it that you can then push out?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, we don't have that plugin feature just yet within CW RMM. And for that particular piece, I don't know where we are in the pipeline for that. So from the plugin perspective, that might be a bit difficult. You could always build your own suite of monitors just like you could within Automate to get that. But from a plugin perspective, I don't think we have that piece just yet.
All right. Is there an additional charge for Intellimon? We currently have Automate.
So Intellimon is part of CW RMM. So there is an additional charge to use that RMM tool as opposed to Automate. If you are an Automate partner, you do have access to Core, which is our baseline CW RMM solution. You can talk to your account manager about that. If I remember correctly, we are still running that I hate to use the word promotion. For some reason, that leaves a very bitter taste for me. But that we still have that option available to you, I believe. Your account manager will have a bit more information than that. So if you want to just test drive out CW RMM, see if you like it, and all the functions and features that it has, you can absolutely do that from there. Core is going to have a different suite of monitors available to it. I believe they have somewhere around 300 as opposed to the 1,000 that I have in my advanced version. And then the standard license has a larger suite of monitors, I think in the 800 to 900 range. And then the advanced one has the 1,000 range currently. But as I said, those numbers are continuously growing and changing on a daily basis. You saw, like I said, I had 3 brand new ones in my preview instance that weren't there yesterday that I just happened to notice. So they're constantly adding to it. They're changing the numbers for all of them. If they think more people need this particular monitor and this is more of a core function, they'll keep adding those to it.
Okay. Next one is, do you have any best practices or guidance for the tech team to manage the 2 information sources, such as Automate and CW RMM and or Command, that are sending in information?
So we don't have any written best practices yet. We haven't really matured. We haven't seen enough of a mature process between the 2 products working together in tandem besides our own network. Again, the one best practice that me and Natco will always be advocating, if you're doing one thing in a product, continue to do it in that product. So if you want to do all of your patching, you should do all of your patching within either CW RMM, which it's really easy to do, and I believe Natco has a lesson coming out for that soon, or you do it all in Automate. You don't want to mix and match. And that's not because the products can't work together. It's the human error that we're concerned about in that particular piece, because someone is going to click on something that they shouldn't have clicked on. And then you're going to have 2 different systems trying to fight each other to patch. Same thing for monitoring. Our best practice in Automate has always been to generate a ticket with every monitor that you have, so you know exactly what's going on and you have a history. We've just taken that to the natural conclusion where every monitor is always going to generate a ticket in CWRMM. But if you have the exact same monitor looking for the exact same thing in both products, you've now generated 2 tickets. If you have both of them synced up to your manage instance, you now have 2 tickets in your manage instance as well. Yes, you could close out both of those tickets. Yes, you could close out and have them set up to where it's going to close out the tickets in the native product. But more than likely, because the odds are never in your favor, you're going to have 2 technicians working the exact same issue because the alert has come from 2 different sources. So usually I'm a high advocate of making sure if you're going to do a function in one product, continue to do it in that product or shift everything over to the new product. You know, if you decide patching is a lot easier and a lot less painful in CWRMM, which it absolutely is, I love Automate. It's been my bread and butter for many, many years, but it is very difficult to get somebody comfortable with patching in the product. I know that, Natco, I think you would agree with me on that one.
Yeah, the patching setup in our CW RMM is very good, very easy to do, easy
Mhm.
to understand and configure. To kind of add to what you were saying earlier, DVB, and I'm thinking that this is just an idea that popped in my mind, but if you are in the process of just getting started with CWRMM, for example, and you are monitoring for the same things, or you happen to be monitoring for the same things on both products, perhaps an idea could be, and I don't know the managed side of this, but have your tickets from CWRMM maybe hit a different service board in manage, and that way you at least have the tickets separated out on two different service boards. So you could have a service board your technicians are working out of, but then you could also have a service board that you're monitoring to see what CWRMM is finding versus what Automate is finding. And you could have the two communicating with manage that way, at least at the start of things or in the beginning. That
Yeah,
way you can kind of differentiate between the two and then see, is this product doing what I want it to do on one side versus the other where my technicians are working? Is this product accomplishing what I want to monitor for? Is this pulling up what I want to see? So that could be maybe an idea to get started if you haven't started with CWRMM as of yet.
yeah, that's a good plan. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. All right, do we still have a lot of questions going through?
That was the question at the bottom of the list.
Oh,
So we are through the list. There was tons of questions. If for whatever reason we didn't get to your question today, please feel free to email education@connectwise.com and myself, DVB, or anyone on our team can answer that question for you, or we can get you to the right resources to answer that question. Also want to remind everyone that we do have assets available out there on the university. We have on our docs.connectwise.com page under the unified management section, there you will find the ConnectWise RMM section there. And also in our under our university.connectwise.com in our video library in the education section, we do have an RMM section there with already several webinars and how-to videos on various different functions and things within ConnectWise RMM. Also want to make mention of an IntelliMon Alerts customization feature that I was just made aware of during this presentation. That's how fast we're doing these updates. We're actually getting updates now as we're doing the updates while we're presenting on the things that are updated in CWRMM. We're adding an IntelliMon Alerts customization feature. This is probably going to be coming in the next release or so. They didn't give me an exact ETA on this. They just said maybe in the next release or so. So we could see this next release of CWRMM or the one after that is what I'm kind of assuming here. But I can't give you a hard deadline on that or anything. So we would be adding a feature where the default IntelliMon alert configuration for specific conditions can be modified and applied to specific endpoints, sites, dynamic or static groups.
oh yeah, the
This will
threshold
allow,
functionality.
sorry,
The threshold functionality, yeah,
so
that's
this will
not.
allow, that's not what
No, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, this will allow everyone to edit the default alert configuration for the alert generation. And as you just mentioned, DBB, thresholds thresholds applied will override the default alert configurations. So you can also apply individual automation rules against the threshold, something that's coming fairly soon. So this is the threshold functionality that's coming.
Yep.
When exactly that might be, I don't know that.
Oh, and on the screen, you can see here that this is our video library. You can see all the filters that I have under RMM, all the how-to videos that we have available. As you can see, we built a nice chunk of them for you. We also have several webinars. We have one webinar for it, and this one will be the second one in a ever-growing list of them that we'll have available for you as well. All right. If there's no other questions, I think it's time for us to sign off, Natko.
All
Thank you
right,
all
thank you.
so very much for joining us today. Please take a look, or again, any questions you have, feel free to email us at education@connectwise.com. We'd be more than happy to talk to you guys through there. And take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.